So let's do that. As we discussed in the previous chapter, many large meetings can have virtually as much interaction as a small meeting by just using a variations of the large and small group meeting format. We previously talked about the Saman Circle, which is a technique that permits everybody to talk and everybody to hear what is said, but in a setting that is more like a small group discussion than a series of formal speeches or comments. So the main idea overall is to break large groups into small groups when you can, use a facilitator, record the comments that are said in those small groups, then record back to the larger group. And this is immediately how you make a meeting more engaging. James Craintor proposes a number of structured small group processes such as broadcasting, brainstorming, and dot democracy or dot voting. Backcasting is a technique developed by Matt and Gail Taylor of MG Taylor to get groups to think unconventionally. Backcasting is the opposite of forecasting. So when forecasting, you start in the present and then seek to predict the future. With backcasting, you're told what has occurred in the future, and your job is to identify a program or a series of events that could produce that outcome. If you remember, in a previous lecture, we talked about SARAR, where community members were shown a kid that was able to use a latrine, and community members talk about what are the steps that make this vision a reality. So that is like backcasting. Brainstorming is a technique for increasing the number and also creativity of ideas developed by a group. In brainstorming, everyone in the group is encouraged to come up with as many ideas as possible, including unconventional ideas. So everything goes in the brainstorming session. And then you have like dot democracy. This was developed by Jerome Deli Priscoli and Lawrence Edgens, colleagues in the public participation field. I don't know if saying that it was developed because I'm sure that this existed before, but they just like make it internationally recognized as a technique. So you probably have seen this like dot voting before. There are several ways of doing this. For example, each person is given a dot and they place in the preferred answer. In this case, we have which fruit should we have for snack? And here, oranges were like the favorite among everyone. So each person given a dot and they just vote. Or maybe each person is given only 3 dots of the same color and they need to prioritize among a very large list of what is like the most important things and the most important ideas that they would like to put forward, for example, for some recommendations. People can also be given different color dots and that they mean different things. Like green means yes, and red is no, yellow is maybe, and blue is something else, like undecided or no opinion or no applicable. I don't see the blue too often in these things. I mostly see yes, no, and then maybe. The nominal group process, or NGT, is a way of generating a discussion on that. In this meeting slide, I will compare brainstorming and nominal group processes, and they are very similar. So basically, in the brainstorming, people come together and they are not doing like the small individual thinking, but they just come together and right away start, taking terms and like killing out like ideas in the room, seeing if people agree with those ideas. People will build on in some ideas, expand in some other people's ideas. And again, the whole point is like to generate as many ideas as you can, and then to what we talked about before, just like choosing which ones are the most important ideas, maybe voting on those ideas. And then in the nominal group, the difference is just that everybody will like write down what they thought are most important ideas on their own. I like better that technique of like the nominal group technique because you can also collect all these like papers and all these like sticky notes, and you can analyze all that. And also there's some people that are going to be shy, so they don't want to tell everyone from their brainstorming idea what were their individual ideas. But then once they write it down, they do share with the group. Even even if they don't want like popular ideas, you can still use that and analyze that data. So again, the outcome is very similar. The difference is that you just start by with the individual and not with the group. Both the brainstorming and nominal group processes, you can use these tickets to have participants generate ideas. Using brainstorming approach, you would write one idea per sticky. I don't know if you have seen those meetings where people like organize the stickies to one single idea, and the you can arrive to some kind of consensus that way by moving things and piling them together and creating a theme. What is the theme that we have here? And you do both brainstorming and nominal process. And then I had like another idea of like how you can rank that is like very much used. It's like you are given like 100 points, and then you have to allocate it into just these different ideas, and you might give all your points to one idea, or because it's very 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 important to you, or you might divide, saying like, oh, I give 15 points to air quality, 30 points to affordable housing, 40 points to economic development, and like that you go and achieve your 10 to show what people care the most and most interested in. And you can do the same thing with like assigning funding. So you can say, I'm going to allocate this many million to this many million to that, and you achieve some kind of prioritization. I do not like the whole prioritization that you can choose all. That's a bad idea. So you should have like choose your top three, or have the Likert scale, or assign the points or the funding, because that will really give you closer to some answer. Then a scenario building, it's a way of like making assumptions about the future. And you can do this like with modeling, computer game systems. You can do with like, GIS, and showing people, if you choose this is what will happen, or if you choose that, this is what will happen. You will watch a video on urban engine, so you have to go to the canvas and select that particular link, but it's very important that you become familiar with a scenario building, because it's used in planning a lot. Especially, I will encourage you to go and check out Envision Utah. They do a lot of these, because they're looking at long-term planning. And then you have like SWOT analysis. We already looked at this: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So groups are asked to analyze these factors, and as they affect the specific program or organization. And this technique is frequently used in strategic planning workshops. It provides a relative simple structure for people to identify assumptions and discuss the need for strategic changes in a program or in our organization. And David Seabed of Groove Consultants International, and you can go to their website, groove.com, has work in the concept of wall charts and process guides. And these are basically like giant posters that you can fill out, and you can buy like these books um, and files that you can print these posters and go through a process, just asking people these questions, and you will do this in a small group discussion. There's like a next figure, this 9.5, showing the structure of an industry. And I had the opportunity of doing these, and they are like a lot of fun. Um, and they have them for like specific topics as well. So there's like a group in Puerto Rico that did one for just thinking about vacant properties. So the questions will be directed towards that. And then the idea is that you go to different communities and you like fill out these posters, and then you can it's like a very visual way of doing this. You can take a photo and you have the whole conversation that you had with that group just by having this image, and it's like a lot of fun to do, and professionals and people residents in the community like it both. It's just like really great. And then there's like in the final pages of this chapter, there's a case study of the Corps of Engineers and how they had these like listening sessions. So basically, just kind of walks you through like how they try to make their meetings more interactive. So again, very simple concept: large meeting into a small group, discussions. People based on their name tag were assigned to a particular meeting, and then people did like brainstorming. So group like generated ideas, and they generate these ideas on yellow stickets so they can record it, and then they will later tell it by the Corps of Engineers. And then the ideas were also visually like recorded using a digital projector so everybody can look at them at the end, or when people came together. And the in terms of like prioritization, the way that they did it or ranking is that instead of asking for all the ideas, even though they collect all the sticky notes, instead of like um like having all the group report absolutely everything, they had to like choose one idea per group. So only the most important idea was I put forward, and that's how you have those force those people to prioritize. And then the dot democracy was used to decide which topics deserve future discussion at another meeting. So that's kind of like putting it together how it looks for you to create more interactive meetings. There's some references about how you can do that. Thank you very much and see you next time.